My classic investments has made me a huge profit, and the profit I've then been investing into the next expansion, the Burning Crusade. So in this video, you can expect me to be talking about all my different investments for TBC. Gems are needed for the new profession, jewel crafting. And with jewel crafting, you will need all these gems to skill up. Yeah, there's also going to be other important materials, and these I will highlight later on. I've not purchased too many lower level gems as I feel like they're way too cheap. And yeah, you don't want to, for example, buy something for 5 silver and ending up with 1000 of these to make a profit. Now, you would much rather like to go a bit bigger, at least if you have a high amount of gold and you don't want to sell thousands of the same item. For example, Tiger's Eye and Malachite. These are so cheap, and in original Burning Crusade Classic, I had so many of these. It took me a long time to sell all of them, and also many different bank characters to also carry these. This is why I'm not purchasing too many of these this time around, but instead spending gold on, for example, aquamarines. Yeah, these are more expensive, and it's also a material that will be in a high demand. Also because when people make a fresh draenei or a blood elf, they can't just go mining and then get these gems right away, which is the case with Malachite and Tiger's Eyes, as you can get them when you're mining copper deposits or even prospecting copper ores. And for those of you wondering, no, I haven't invested into copper ores, but I've invested into tin ores as I feel like this is way better when we are talking about making a profit. When you're prospecting 5 tin ores, there's also a chance of you getting way better gems than Tiger's Eye and Malachite. For that specific reason, I've also filled 2 bank characters with these ores. Those of you that used to watch my original Burning Crusade investment videos, you might also remember me investing into 5000 thorium ores. Back then it did pay off, but I feel like the current price on auction house is just a bit too expensive for me. Yeah, when you're prospecting, there's a chance that you will get additional gems, and back when I prospected those 5000 thorium ores, I also ended up with close to 1100 gems. If I went to vendor them, well, then the average price should be a bit less than 20 silver for each thorium ore, just to break even. And this is why the current price is just a bit too expensive for me. Also because there might be many people stacking up on these ores, and then it will be difficult to sell the gems on the auction house, at least for the first couple of weeks. Be aware you will also need to level up your jewel crafting to 250 before you will be able to prospect these ores. Talking about ores, I've invested a lot of gold into Mithril ores, and I can't even remember how many stacks I've got so far, but it is a lot. I'm not sure if I will prospect them, because I feel like Mithril ores will become a lot more expensive, and then I'm not really sure if it will be worth to prospect the ores. However, if it's not going to be worth it, then the price for aquamarines, citrines, and the other gems you can get here will also become more expensive. Another reason for why I believe aquamarines will become more expensive is because it's needed when you reach level 225, as you use aquamarines to craft this ring. So what I can do with my Mithril ores is to either prospect them, sell them if they become more expensive, or melt them into bars, as Mithril bars are usually a bit more expensive compared to the ores, as you need them for also leveling up engineering, blacksmithing, and jewel crafting. Before I talk about my remaining investments, this is an old clip before TBC pre-patch. The green price were my average price, and the red price the average price before the pre-patch. And back then I had already made a huge profit if I sold those items before the pre-patch. So this time around I've tried to beat my old average price simply because I would like to make as big of a profit as possible. This is why I also started investing months ago, and I'm still investing. For example, into silver bars. Silver bars are needed for engineering, but once jewel crafting becomes available, you need 2 bars to craft this ring, and most jewel crafting guides recommend people to craft these to skill up. Even though there's other alternatives, it seems like the ring is just the best choice, and this is why silver bars also becomes more expensive. When I showed this clip, I was talking about aquamarines, but Flask of Mojo is also very important. Many mages are farming sulfur rack when they're leveling up or at max level. This is why this material is also fairly cheap. But when we move into Burning Crusade, there will still be people leveling up dual crafting, and as this material is needed, and not many people would like to go back to classic content, then the price also becomes more expensive. Or will it did in original Burning Crusade Classic. Before I talk about my remaining investments, then I would also like to highlight that members can watch these videos weeks before I actually publish them. So yeah, a couple of weeks ago, members were able to purchase these items even cheaper compared to what they are right now. In fact, I'm currently also working on part 2, and as a member, you will be able to watch this very soon. Alright, moving on to the next investment. Solid and heavy stones. Yeah, they are probably already expensive in Classic because people need these for engineering, but with dual crafting you also need a lot of these to level up, and many guides recommend you to use these as it's an easy way to skill up. Just be aware that the current price can be pretty expensive in Classic, so make sure to scan the auction house for some time before you start purchasing these, else you might be paying overpriced. I've also invested into enchanting materials, as enchanting becomes a way better profession in the Burning Crusade. In the Burning Crusade, you can enchant your rings, but it also requires you to be an enchanter. But because these enchants are so powerful, then many guides also recommend people to level up this profession, especially as a healer or a spellcaster. The material or well dust I've purchased most of is illusion dust. The reason being you need a lot of these to level up, but in Burning Crusade we can continue to use these to level up enchanting to around 330. So in the beginning, when there's not many Burning Crusade materials on the auction house, or when they're being very expensive, then you could level up like this. And no, I don't go for greater eternal essence, as you need way too many of these to level up. In the pre-patch, we can play a Blood Elf Paladin, and this is where the Skull Flame Shells might also increase in price. However, on my server, I feel like the price are way too expensive, so as of right now, I'm not investing into them. Where you could maybe make a profit is going to be rare and epic items for people going to level up a Blood Elf Paladin or Draenei Shaman. Some weapons might become more expensive, but remember, many might also just be boosted to max level, and this is where this could also turn out to be a bad investment. Remember, when you're investing in this game, there's also a chance you won't be making a huge profit. Yeah, you could potentially even end up losing gold. So if you don't have much gold, or if you need gold for your epic flying mount, I would honestly not risk too much here. Maybe go with 10 to 20% of your maximum amount of gold, and then keep the rest. It of course also depends when you're watching this video, because if you're watching it too late, a lot of these materials might already be way too expensive. Soon I'll release a lot more useful Burning Crusade videos, for example tips and tricks, leveling, gold making, yeah, the list goes on and on. So if you don't want to miss those, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get notified the next time I post a video. Peace.